Good morning. Thank you for braving the Expo Center to come see our talks. I really appreciate it. And I'd like you to start by thinking about how long it takes you to get from ideation all the way into production. For example, if a citizen or an agency comes to you and says that they have an idea, how long does it take you to sit down with them, ideate on that idea, create a prototype, test it, and eventually move it into production, eventually getting an ROI? My name's Steve Morad, and with me is Ibrahim Mohammed, and this is something that we think about every day. We prepackage AWS services and software to help customers get more advantage out of the cloud so that they can accelerate their time to adoption for AWS. We work backwards from specific customer use cases to build things like industry-specific data lakes, remediate cloud security findings automatically, or automate cloud operations, and a whole lot more. Specifically for public sector, the solutions library has solutions that help provide solutions for education use cases like student admissions, financial aid, learning management systems, or in the government for things like national and security and defense, research, justice, and public safety, or emergency response, and a whole lot more. We codify AWS architectural patterns that are proven for various customers, following AWS well-architected security and development best practices. One of the use cases that we've seen agencies really struggle with is call center modernization and how to leverage AI or generative AI to solve a number of different challenges that they've seen. During COVID, that really heightened the challenges that different agencies have seen with how they can scale their cost centers, how they can handle peak and demand, how they can be more cost effective in handling very unpredictable call volumes. AI, and more recently generative AI, has a lot of promises, but our customers tell us that they expect it to take years for them to implement and modernize their call centers before they can actually start generating a return on investment. That's why we built Q&A Bot on AWS, which is an out-of-the-box prepackaged solution that provides a multi-channel chatbot. We automatically integrate with AWS services like Amazon Connect, Lex, Pinpoint, SageMaker, Translate, Comprehend. But we also integrate with third-party products like Genesys Cloud or Twilio, and you can integrate with third-party large language models through Amazon Bedrock as well. It allows you to get started really quickly. You just launch a CloudFormation template, and then you configure your chatbot based on what modules you want to use or how you want to configure the question and responses with a lot of flexibility. For example, you're able to configure whether you want to have exact pre-curated answers or whether you want to use generative AI to automatically determine what types of questions and answer for you, and based on your own regulatory requirements or risk tolerance for how far you want to go between those extremes. Just a couple of examples is that the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet was really struggling with peak volume of their call centers. In fact, during peak, they would actually have to reboot their call center servers 2 times a day, and that resulted in a 30-minute outage while they were actually doing that reboot. They were able to, within 2 months, implement Q&A Bot, and as a result, they're able to get 99.9% deflection rate to where only 1,000 out of every 900,000 calls was actually needed to be handled by a live agent as a result of that. It also reduced their hold times by 30 to 50% for their customers itself. But not only that, it improved their agent quality of life. They were able to reduce turnover for their agents by 150%, and they were also able to reduce training for new agents from 4 weeks down to 2 weeks, all while maintaining a really high level of quality for their customers. Similarly, the California DMV saw a huge surge in their call center traffic in response to Real ID requirements, and they were also struggling with up to 2 hours of hold time for some customers, and on average about 30 minutes of call time. They anticipated or estimated that it would take them 24 months to modernize their call center and then get a return on investment after that time period. They were actually able to, within 3 months of moving forward with their project to go live with over 250 live agents and generate ROI after 2 months after that. So significantly increasing their ability to move over. They called their chatbot Miles, and I think one of the best indicators of kind of the success and customer satisfaction is that they have a 90% customer satisfaction rate with this new system that they put in place. And then finally, Oklahoma State University at Oklahoma City had no way of capturing student sentiment or track the quality of their call center agents throughout the onboarding process for new students, new student registration, and whatnot. They initially struggled and would peak out at about 2,000 conversations during this time period and had a very inconsistent student registration experience. After implementing Q&A bot, they were able to handle in excess of 34,000 conversations at peak. They were able to save over 800 hours of their staff time in responding to things. But more importantly, because they now had more metrics and information about what type of questions they're being asked, they're able to get new insights about how they're communicating with prospective students. Specifically, in one example, they realized that they were not doing a good job of communicating about on-campus living type situations because they don't actually offer that. And they realized there's a huge amount of student inquiries that were coming in asking them about on-campus things. So they're able to actually make changes to how they communicate with students and their website information as well. But of course, there's a whole lot of other ways that Gen AI can transform agencies and citizen experiences. And to talk about some of the ways that we are trying to help you create generative applications to solve additional informations and deal with some of the complexities of building Gen AI apps, I'd like to introduce Ibrahim.
Thank you, Steve. Outside of the call center, how can generative AI be leveraged to transform public sector organizations? One of the most critical pieces of data that organizations have, and the asset that they have, is high quality, highly accurate, and highly localized data. Making that available to citizens is one of the critical mandates public sector organizations are tasked with. It helps to improve equity. And it improves and transforms how they're able to deliver that service. So how can generative AI help? One of the ways is by providing them a mechanism to take the data and make it more accessible. What does a generative AI application look like? It's not much different from any other application. On the front end, you have your user interface, serving your static data. You have an API to serve your dynamic data, and perhaps to take some actions. Both of those are serviced by a backing user authentication and authorization system. In the middle, you have your business layer. That can be used to connect into your knowledge base, inference on your models. This is where you would build your primary use case. For education, think about what it would be like for a new parent trying to navigate the curriculum for their child, even if they can't understand the local language. This is where you would build your specific use case. On the back end, you have operations and monitoring, using this to get observability into your system. Anyone who has built an application knows that this high-level overview isn't a true representation of what it actually looks like once you dig into the details. Generative AI applications have their own nuance. Model latency, it's not unreasonable to expect that they would take 30 or more seconds to generate a response. So setting up socket streaming to improve that user experience and provide a response as soon as they're available. Generative AI models don't have any concept of session storage, configuration, or any type of memory to enable it. that onus is on the developer to build that into their application. These are the types of application development experiences that hamper and prevent you from focusing on your core generative AI experience. What if you didn't need to focus on any of this, and instead had a user interface that you could input all of the information specific to the Gen AI experience? The model you wish to use, the knowledge base you want to serve your data from, etc. This is the problem we look to solve with the Generative AI Application Builder on AWS. We call this solution GAB. We give you the choice and configurability to select which data, where your data stores, and how you can bring that vector store in. Which models you want to use. All of these things, we give you the option to select. The solution comes with a pre-built user interface to enable rapid experimentation, so you could compare latency, performance, and cost of different models without having to focus on all of the undifferentiated workloads that surround that application. And when you're ready to go into production, after your tests and iteration, the solution is production ready with the security, scalability, reliability, and observability that you come to expect of a production-grade application. And because we can't solve for all use cases, we've built the solution with an extensible, modular architecture to enable you to extend it as suits your needs. But practically, how do you get started? Let's take a look at 2 example scenarios to see how you can leverage the solution to build an application. The first example, you have your data and you want to integrate some new generative AI capabilities. So on one side, you have your existing applications, and on the other, you have your data repositories and your business rules. We'll transform these, bring them into AWS through Amazon Bedrock knowledge bases for your data, and we'll codify those business rules through guardrails and safeguards. Taking those resources, we will integrate them in to the Generative AI Application Builder solution. This is where you can focus on your use case. Whether that's text generation, data analysis and exploration, translation, summarization, the choice is yours. Take, for example, a local courthouse who wants to revitalize their search interface by surfacing and linking the most relevant case law. Once you've tested and iterated upon your use case, you'll be given an API interface that you can then directly take into production, as the solution is built with all of the considerations of AWS's well-architected infrastructure and framework. What if your use case is slightly flipped? And so you have your data, you have your APIs, but now you need a generative AI interface on top of that. So similarly, we'll take our data, our business rules, and our existing APIs. Take something like a parks and recreation service provided by a city. You may have an API to determine all the latest programs that are available. Another API to make a reservation to book your child into the latest swim class. But then you may have knowledge bases and documents about how to register for these programs. All of those can be integrated together into a natural interface and brought in together through an Amazon Bedrock agent. An agent uses a large language model to orchestrate all of these different tools together to service the actions and fulfill that user intent. Once you've tested and iterated using that Bedrock agent, you can then bring that in to the GAB solution. Until this step, that agent is localized and stuck in the AWS console. Bringing it into GAB allows you to wrap that agent into the solution, giving you the user management and authentication, that observability, and the configuration stores that we mentioned. As an output to the solution, you're given that natural language interface you can use to test, iterate, and eventually take it to production. GAB's solution is available today in the AWS Solutions Library. You can look at it. It comes complete with pre-deployed code packages, an open source GitHub repository, and complete implementation guides for you to understand and dig into the details of the solution. But those are just two of the solutions that we provide as a part of the AWS Solutions Library. There is so much more that's available that it covers the automotive industry, healthcare, life sciences, justice and public safety, education, nonprofits, federal government, and so much more. One more example I want to share is, imagine you are the National Reserve for Parks and Forestry. How can generative AI transform your space? Perhaps they can use generative AI to analyze and explore all of the necessary data to determine and predict in which jurisdictions are most likely for the next wildfire. These are the types of experiences that we look to transform with generative AI. But if there's any single key takeaway from this session, it's that the AWS Solutions Library is here to help you accelerate your cloud journey. So the challenge I have to you is the next time that you're faced with a business problem, facing some sort of technical challenge, or looking to enhance the citizen experiences, make the AWS Solutions Library your very first stop, and we're certain that it will help accelerate your cloud journey with AWS. Thank you very much for joining us. My name once again is Ibrahim. I'm joined here by Steve. We are part of the AWS Solutions Library. Please do complete the session survey. It helps us understand what's the type of information and content that you all are looking for here at reInvent. Here are a couple QR codes to further look into the public sector and a couple examples of curated solutions, guidances, and technical references to help your journey. Thank you very much for joining us. Enjoy replay and enjoy the rest of reInvent. Thank you.